Welcome to a special edition of Second City Sports Society Sunday Selection Sunday Special right here on Live in Living Color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena again, the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And while you're at it, please subscribe to our podcast that's available at War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WAR Media. Once again, at War Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. Since this is our March Madness Selection Sunday special, we are not talking about any other sports today. So if you're all about that college basketball, well, where did your team rank? Where did your team end up in the tournament? Did your favorite team get booted? We are here to talk all about that. If you want to comment on the matchups and the topics regarding college basketball, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions, comments in the comments section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you.
But if you decide to troll and try to say, rag on and on about why your team didn't get in, I'm gonna give you guys the boost ever so nicely. Bye.
I love what she says that. But before we begin, we must remind you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago. We are also available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you have a Roku television, just tap on the sports folder and download Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. Just put that app next to your Netflix, Apple TV, Discovery Plus, Hulu apps. Just stick Sports Zone Chicago right through there. If you don't have a Roku TV, but you have some handheld devices going around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your personal PC like LaKeena's using right now, your Chromebook like I'm using right now, just go to the Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that way. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is available on Roku TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, live and on demand.
Anywhere and everywhere you want. You're listening to us right now. It's about a little after 6 here in Chicago or in the Midwest, or if it's like 2 o'clock in Hawaii, like 1 or 2 o'clock still in Hawaii or something like that. So look, just it's all right there for you.
Yep, and shout out to our good friends at War Media that are listening to us back on our replay at War on Anchor. That's our podcast. So we'd like to thank those folks, one and all as well. Kyle Mays, Saul Rodriguez, and the whole squad over there at War Media. Thank you so much for picking up our program. For those of you that are listening, to help us break down the brackets and the previews, the couple of the local teams that made the tournament, and it's our good friend, formerly at 670 Score, now covers the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Ohio State Buckeyes for the USA Today Sports Group. He is the one, the only, the Mike Chen. Mike, welcome back to the show. How are you, my man?
I'm good. Once again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Before we review the rest of the bracket, let's get into the matchups of our local teams. Illinois, the Fighting Illini, they'll play Arkansas, the Razorbacks, out of the SEC in the 8-9 matchup. And the other matchup, the 7-10 matchup, the Northwestern Wildcats, who finished second in the Big Ten with 12 wins during the regular season, they'll face the Boise State Broncos out of the state of Idaho. Almost screwed up there. Mike, we'll start with the Fighting Illini first. We were talking about it before we went on the air today. We talked about the Northwestern with the seeding. You thought you had some questions about their seeding. We'll get to that in just a moment. But I want to focus in on the Illini Arkansas matchup first. I saw that matchup about an hour ago, listed on television. I said Illinois is going to be very tough because Arkansas is very tough inside. But for the Illini, if they shoot the three ball well, they win most of the time. When they don't, they look like a JV team. And the other problem that I do have with this Illini squad, both their big guys, Coleman, Hawkins, and Dame Danger, both of them get in foul trouble. This team is in trouble. What do you see in this 8-9 match with Arkansas and Illinois?
To be honest with you, I think it's a toss-up right now. Neither team is really coming into play very well. The Illini 2-3 over their last 5 games. You're looking at Arkansas as 1-4 coming into their last 5 games. Neither of the teams really are peaking at the right time. So, to be honest with you, it's really hard to say what's going to happen in this game. As we all know, 8-9 matchups a lot of times are toss-ups. We don't really know, especially nowadays. I mean, 15, 20 years ago, you're talking about a tournament where it was chalk and all the higher seeds would win. But now we're seeing 15s beat 2s in the first round. It's just absolutely nuts. Teams are deeper. They're much more experienced. In this situation, again, I think you're right. At the end of the day, if the Illini can control the rebounding battle and keep their bigs out of foul trouble, they've got enough guards. Terrence Shannon's absolutely fantastic. I think that they can get to that second round. Now, if they do get to that second round, though, you've got Big Bad Kansas.
Yeah.
Looking at them. So, like we talked about a couple months ago when I was back on previously, push to shove, there's a team that I was going to pick that I liked. It was Kansas. And again, they continue to play well. But we'll talk about. I'm sure you'll ask about Kansas a little bit, and we'll get into that. But back to the Illini Arkansas. Again, it's a toss up here, and I could see it going either way for the Illini.
Yeah, I mean, this is really what an 8-9 matchup is. It really could go either way. I think I tweet out like first to 80 could win this game because, like you said, both teams have had their struggles coming in. And, I mean, you look at Arkansas, they got, Ricky Council the fourth, they got Anthony Black, that Mekhi Mitchell. I mean, those guys, they can shoot, they can, rebound, they can shoot the three. So this could literally be like who gets hot and who can kind of, toss up. So I think that's really going to be the key here for this matchup. How do you feel?
Yeah, again, it's something where you're going to look at and say, all right, well, these teams struggle down the stretch, right? And again, I want to see the teams that are going to do well in the tournament are ones that are not necessarily peaking right at the end, but are playing very good basketball at the end. And right now, it could go either way. Again, Arkansas, they played in a very, very tough ACC. However, when you're looking at it, the Illini played in a tough Big Ten. Each of those conferences had 8 bids, the most in the country for conferences, the most in the country. So we're not talking about an SEC a couple years ago where you're like, all right, it's just one team and that's it. We're talking about a deep SEC once again. And if you're coming out of either one of those conferences, if you're coming out of it, you've played a tough schedule. You've really gone at it. Now, again, the losses that Arkansas has had over this last 5-game stretch, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas A&M, all ranked teams. Every single one. Their one win was against Auburn. It was barely a win. It was just by 3 points. So it really depends on what team shows up. And they've been, they did really well the middle of the season, but they kind of struggled towards the end. So, and it's the same thing with the Illini. The Illini, if they're able to really get it going, because we've seen the Illini play some good basketball. We've also seen the Illini play some average at best basketball as well. So if they can come out and play their best basketball, the basketball that we saw them play kind of in the middle of the season when they went on a little run starting in January throughout that month. They played their best basketball right in that stretch. And again, they struggled down at the end of the season. And if they can somehow manage to figure it out in the next few days, I think they'll be okay. But we'll see.
Staying with the Illini, Mike, of course, we talk about the big guys and Hawkins and Danger. And of course, we brought up Terrence Shannon just a moment ago. In your opinion, who's going to be that X factor, that third guy that can make a difference for the Illini, especially coming out of the bench? You have Jaden Epps, RJ Melendez, who's been there before. And of course, you have Ty Rogers, who's been getting more minutes these last few weeks coming out the bench. Who's that X factor that no one's talking about for Illinois that can make a difference on Thursday against Arkansas?
I'm always going to go, especially tournament time, I like guard play. guard play, the ball handlers, they've got, a lot of it is in their hands. So you mentioned already, I think Jaden Epps is really, really big. If he shoots well from beyond the arc, he's a 30% 3-point shooter on the year. If he can up that, he's got to take care of the ball as well. And I mean, everybody's got to. But I think that he's that X factor. He's that guy that, if he can get it going, because he plays a lot of minutes as well.
Mhm.
If he can get it going, if Epps can get it going, I think the Illini have a very good chance of pulling out a win on day one.
Let's stay in the West region. Go a couple little seeds down as we talk about, go over to Northwestern. They play Boise State, a 7-10 matchup. We were talking about just before we went live, Mike, you said that you felt that Northwestern should have been a little bit higher?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, again, what they did, and again, they struggled down the stretch too, right?
Mhm.
But they managed to get second place in the Big Ten. And yeah, there was not much difference between second place and like 10th place in the Big Ten. And I get that. And I understand that. But you're looking at body of work, and their body of work and what they did, I think in a tough conference, I thought deserved a little bit higher than a 7. Again, not a ton higher, because if you think about it, they were ranked in the top 25 at one point towards the end of the season. And if you're ranked in the top 25, that's usually, at worst, you're looking at a 5 or a 6, right? Kind of depending. And they end up with a 7, which is close. It's right there. But I think that they should have probably been given a little bit of benefit of the doubt due to their body of work. But again, they made it. Second time in school history. I don't think that anybody's complaining, especially Chris Collins. I think he's ecstatic to get in there, especially, coming into the season, everyone was talking about it. This is the year for Northwestern. They have to do something. And backs against the wall, they went out. They won 21 total games. They finished second in the Big Ten. They did enough to get into the tournament. And now I think that they have an opportunity to make a little bit of noise.
College hoops blogger and reporter Mike Chen from the USA Today Sports Group is going to hang out with us for our Sunday Selection Sunday special right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in 11 color. Sidney LaKeena here. Whether you have a question or comment for us, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. Mike, we know that Boo Boy. Don't laugh at his name, folks. He's the leader of the Wildcats. He's been getting it done all year. But I like Brooks Barnheiser, the sophomore guard. I know that he was second on the team in scoring, especially in that tough loss last Friday against Penn State in overtime in the Big Ten tournament. Talk about Brooks' impact on Northwestern this year. What a difference maker can he be on Thursday when they face Boise State?
Well, he's one of the better shooters, and that's definitely something that you need to have. And when you hit conference play, you need to have big-time shooters. And him, Ty Berry, Chase Audige, all three of them really are key to shooting and getting defenses to stop their focus on Boo Buie, because that's what's going to happen. And I guarantee you, what's going to happen is there's going to be a ton of eyes on Buie. And Boise State's going to try and stop him because he's the guy. And if they manage to stop him, those other guys, they need to step up. And, Barnheiser is a guy who doesn't score a ton, has the ability to score, is a solid 3-point shooter, shoots well from the floor. He is money from the free throw line. He contributes in other ways as well. He averages almost 5 rebounds a game, which is pretty impressive from a guard standpoint. So I think that I wouldn't necessarily say he's the X factor, but I think he's going to have to play a big role in order for Northwestern to move on to the next round.
Yeah, as someone who has seen Boise State a couple of times this year, I mean, they can play defense. They play defense really well. So this could definitely be one of those like 50-point, type of first to 50 type of or 6 deals. I mean, I really like their guard Marcus Schaefer Jr. Boise State, their senior guards, and they got a lot of great seniors on that squad. So this is going to be one of those matchups where I think who has that upper hand first, who can kind of get it going, right off the bat and kind of keep the other scorers at bay. What do you think?
I think that I don't know too much about Boise. I'm not going to pretend like I do. They play again. I'm going to go with a team, and the way I'm going to pick a lot of my choices in the bracket is a lot of it's going to do with conference affiliation. When you look at which team has gone through the grind and which teams have not, and Boise, not the best conference. Mountain West is okay. You don't expect a ton to come out of them. And in my eyes, I think that, the games that they needed to win, occasionally they didn't. Now, they did have a really big win against San Diego State recently, which I'm very high on San Diego State. And, it wasn't like a convincing win. It was 6 points, but it's still a win against a top 25 team. Did avenge a loss from earlier in the year where they lost by 20. But I do think that, again, it's guard dominated. And I think that in this matchup, I think Northwestern actually has an advantage with their guards.
As we say every year, you need great guard play and a big guy inside in the NCAA tournament. But I want to ask you about Coach Collins' coaching style, especially defensively, and the way that team plays defense. It could carry you very far in March if you have those other components intact.
Yeah, I definitely think that, and we've seen Northwestern play some good defense. We've also seen them play some bad defense. But if they can hold teams to about that 60, 65-point range, I think they have a really good shot at winning. And because they're not offensive efficiency, that's not their game. They want slower, grind them out. They want a little bit more of a defensive battle. And if they get that, I think they have a good shot. And I think that, overall, in my eyes, I think Northwestern, it plays enough defense. They have enough defense to turn around and get a win. But again, they have to keep this game in their opponent close to in that 60 range. So if they don't, then it's not good for them.
Now let's talk about some of the other Big Ten teams for a second here. Of course, Purdue gets the last number one seed after, of course, winning the Big Ten tournament. You have to make it a little harder on themselves than they should have. They're number one seed in the East. They will play the I forgot. Well, I'll get to that in a second. They're going to play one of the 16 teams. They're going to be playing each other. I'll look that up through the break. But any real surprise? I mean, Michigan State's going to be playing USC, which I'm getting like old school, like Rose Bowl vibes from back in the day. Indiana and Kent State. I mean, that might be a little bit of a danger there.
Yeah, Purdue will play the winner of Texas Southern and Fairleigh Dickinson.
Okay, FDU, yeah. So that could be a little bit. I'm not saying that they're gonna do a UMBC and pull off the upset, but I'm just saying that Purdue, they better keep themselves on their toes. But like I said, I mean, Kent State and Indiana, that might be a little bit of a tough matchup for Indiana. So do you see any of the Big Ten teams that are in? Do you see them any trouble in their first round matchup?
I think that Purdue. We'll just start off at Purdue. I don't think so. Let's be real here. They have Zach Edey's on some people's list as National Player of the Year. Yes, it was really, really close today for them in the Big Ten title game. But let's be real here. I mean, they're a team that has good guard play, although young guards as well. Good guard play.
Right.
And then again, Edey is just in this college basketball season, he's a unicorn. Nobody else has a player like him. And he's constantly in the Big Ten been just battered with double teams. And he's a good passer. He can find the guards open threes. They can hit them. So I think Purdue, I don't think they'll have any issues. Again, and we'll just go down. We'll stay in the East there as well with Michigan State. Michigan State and USC. Again, the Spartans they're a solid team, but I don't believe in them this year, to be honest with you. I think they've had better teams in the past. They don't have anybody that is just like, all right, he could take over a game. They have very solid players. And I think that a good team, and Tom Izzo is one of the better coaches around the country, but I don't think this is one of his better teams. I mean, they're a 7 seed. They play, and a 10 and a 7-10, 10s get that win. And it's just, a lot of people are going to pick against Michigan State. Yes, they are playing in a town that they're very familiar with. They're playing in Columbus, but again, I just don't. I think that USC might have an advantage in this one. We've already touched on Illinois and Arkansas, and Northwestern and Boise. So if we look over at the South region, I don't have much faith in Maryland as well against West Virginia. I think that West Virginia plays a little bit more up tempo, and I think that that's going to not end well for Maryland. But out in the Midwest, there's a team out there from the Big Ten that I think can make some noise, and that's Iowa. Iowa, I think they've got a tough matchup against Auburn. Iowa's the highest scoring team in the Big Ten, about 85 points a game, right around there. And they've got one of the best players in the conference, in my eyes. And I just think that in Chris Murray, and I think that, when you've got that, you're going to – I just like what they've done. They've got multiple scoring options. They shoot well. They have some good guards. They've got, that good inside-outside presence as well. So, I actually like Iowa, and if I'm going to make a pick as the first number 1 seed to go down, it's probably going to be Houston over Iowa. Iowa over Houston. I like that matchup. For Indiana, I don't fear Kent State. I think the Golden Flashes are okay, but again, it's a MAC school. And I know it's the tournament, anything can happen. But I definitely think that Indiana's got a nice and easy road there to get to the second round. And then the final team we're looking at is Penn State. I love what Micah Shrewsbury did this year. I really do. There's chatter about some big name schools going after him. There's some talk about Notre Dame going after Shrewsbury. He is, he coached up. He was an assistant at Indiana for a long time before he took the job over at Penn State. He's turned them around in 2 years, and in college basketball, if you're able to do that and get to the tournament, and today, it was pretty close, right? They almost went home with the Big Ten championship, conference championship tournament. So I think that they're riding high right now. And yes, they lost. And at one point in time, it looked like they were going to get blown out. But they turned it around and they really clamped down, and they gave Purdue a run for their money. And I think that bodes well for Penn State. So I do like Penn State over Texas A&M on first glance.
We'll get a review the rest of the tournament and field after our bottom of the hour break. Right now, we're hanging out with Mike Chen, college basketball hoops blogger and reporter from the USA Today Sports Group. He's hanging out with us on our Selection Sunday special right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, real live in living color. LaKeena here with you, Mike. Speaking of Purdue, they eliminated Rutgers on Friday in the Big Ten tournament here in Chicago. Of course, Rutgers finishes the year at 19-14. They were one of the last teams that were left out of the tournament. Could you make a case of them getting in?
I think that you could, just due to the depth of the Big Ten. Again, we've talked about this. The Big Ten put 8 teams in there. I think the 9th team definitely could have been Rutgers. I feel as if when you look at their big picture, they just missed some signature wins, and I do think that they're a solid team, but again they just didn't quite have that those quad 1 wins that you're looking for to put a team into the tournament. So it would have been nice to see them in there, but 8 Big Ten teams made it. That's a lot of Big Ten teams getting into the tournament. So someone was going to have to be a casualty of the fact that, someone else was going to get in, and it just so happened that was Rutgers.
Yeah, that's tied with SEC, who also got 8. The Big 12 got 7. Tied with 5, ACC in the Big East. Mountain West and Pac-12 got 4. So that was nice to see the Mountain West get 4 teams this year. Back to the old early 2000s when it was the old WAC conference, and 2 each from the West Coast and the American. So that's kind of your conference breakdown there. Any of the other teams that I know I saw this? I saw OK State. I think was the first team that was left out. North Carolina, which I was a little surprised by, considering that they didn't have a good, quad 1, thing, and also 2 Clemson. Any of those other 3 that you would think, oh my God, they should have gotten in?
No, you can get nitpicky and say this team should have gotten, that team couldn't have gotten in. What they could have done was win a couple more games to get off of that bubble. It is what it is. Some teams are just going to go home disappointed today, and that's what happened. Now, specifically North Carolina, what's crazy about North Carolina is they came into the year ranked number 1. They are the only team ever to start off the year ranked number 1 to not make the NCAA tournament. That is absolutely nuts. And what they did last year, getting to the championship game as well. I mean, Hubert Davis did such a great job last year, and I don't know what happened this year. It's not like they had, they didn't have talent. I mean, Armando Bacot passed Michael Jordan on the school's scoring leaders list this year. I mean, it's not like they had bad players. I think they just assumed that they were just going to kind of breeze through the ACC, get into the tournament, and then kind of make a run again without working themselves into it. So, again, there are plenty of teams that had an argument to getting in, and it is the name of the game. Some teams just aren't going to make it due to the numbers.
And just it was just announced a few minutes ago that North Carolina has decided not to participate in the NIT. So
interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, again, after a disappointing season, I understand why they wouldn't want to. I think they really wanted to make the tournament, and again, a couple other wins here and there, and I think they would have made it. But that's the decision that the school made, and I guess they're just going to have to live with it.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as our Second City Sports Selection Sunday edition continues. We'll give you our potential upsets. We'll give you our winners who cuts down the nets in 3 weeks from now, and we'll give you some of our X factors who could be a difference in this year's NCAA tournament. Along with Miss LaKeena McGee, Mike Chen, I'm Sid. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color. More after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to our Second City Sports Selection Sunday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. We're hanging out with our good buddy Mike Chen from the USA Today Sports Group. He's a college hoops blogger and reporter. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at LaKeena McGee on the Twitter and at LaKeena McGee on the IG.
And we have less than a half hour left of this special. If you have any questions or comments for us, or who's your winner for this year's tournament, and a whole lot more silly predictions, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. All right, here is the rest of the brackets filled out for you guys. Let's start in the South region. We'll have number 1 Alabama facing Texas A&M, CC, or Southeast Missouri State. Of course, we talked about Maryland and Virginia earlier, 8-9 matchup from the South region. This one is a tricky matchup, in my opinion. Number 5, San Diego State. The Aztecs will face number 12 seeded Charleston. That game is in Orlando on Thursday. And also on Thursday, number 4 seeded Virginia Cavaliers. They'll face Furman, who are ranked seeded number 13. Does any of those games jump out? Which games jump out at you for you guys?
You know, that Furman Virginia game. I've seen Furman a couple of times. I mean, they can definitely hang with Virginia. Not gonna say they're gonna pull off the upset. I'm not talking about the Paladins, but this is the first appearance since 1980. We weren't even born yet the last time they went to the so they're gonna want to make it for all it's worth. So if the good Virginia team shows up, I think they have a shot. I think I think Virginia can go far. But if we get the Virginia team we saw last night against Duke, Furman can pull off the upset. What do you think, Mike?
I have to agree with you on that one. I think that Virginia likes to slow the ball down. They like to play at a snail's pace. They're more a defensive style of team. And if Furman can disrupt them and get them down, I mean, we've seen Virginia be highly ranked and get knocked off in the first round previously. This is not something that, that is abnormal, especially for Virginia. Their style of play is just unique in this era of college basketball when the majority of teams want to go and push the ball and push the ball and push the ball. They want to slow everything down and they want to extend possessions and shoot with under 5 seconds on the shot clock. That's not what a lot of teams do anymore. A lot of teams are just trying to keep that pace and have those high scores. And in my eyes, I do think that if there's a lower seed that's going to come out of that little grouping right there, I think it's Furman.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on Virginia. I did watch that game last night in its entirety. They had a couple of chances to overtake Duke. They just couldn't do it. And their lack of offensive efficiency, I think, is really going to do them in. I think they'll get past Furman, but if it's a potential matchup between Virginia and San Diego State, I really like San Diego State in that one. They're more offensively affluent than Virginia is. We talked about the Maryland-Virginia matchup earlier. I think West Virginia is going to get that one. I just want to go over the last half of that South region bracket. Of course, these games are Thursday and Friday. Creighton versus NC State in the 6-11 matchup. Also in the 3-14 matchup, you have the Baylor Bears versus UC Santa Barbara. That's at Denver, Colorado on Friday. On Thursday in Sacramento, California, the 7-10 matchup is between the Missouri Tigers and Utah State. in Arizona and Princeton in a 2-15 matchup. Do we see any upsets or surprises in this half of the South region bracket?
Yeah, no,
No, go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, I was just saying, I think that it's always the 7-10s always jump out to me, and I think that Utah State, I think they're good enough. Again, I think that some of the Big Ten teams and some of the SEC teams, they beat each other up, and they're going to come in, maybe a little bit worn down. I know they're young college basketball players, but it's not necessarily about their physical ability. Sometimes it's the mental, and I think Utah State has an opportunity right in front of them to take advantage of that from Missouri, and I actually like that. That's one of the 7-10s that I like that 10.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Utah State. Ryan Odom's over there now, so he's been able to get them back in the tournament for the first time in a few years. So yeah, I could definitely see them being the Fighting Mike Bermans, as we call them here. On, of course, our buddy NBC Chicago's Mike Berman here. We gotta get him back on the show at some point.
Yeah, don't forget Josh Ryman too, Channel 90 in Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. He's a Mizzou guy as well. Yeah, I know some people are picking. I know Seth Davis is very hot on this Princeton Arizona matchup. I mean, Arizona had that great comeback against UCLA last night to win the Pac-12 tournament. So I'm thinking that Arizona might be finding their groove a little bit. UCSB, I mean, I know Baylor's been struggling lately. They lost a couple of their key guys. So could the Gauchos pull off the upset? Maybe. I think NC State could catch Creighton, depending on which Creighton shows up, because if you saw the Creighton that we saw a couple of nights ago against Xavier, there might not be. We may not like that. And plus, I think NC State's going to play with all motivation, because a lot of people are going to feel like they should not have gotten in. So they might feed off that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more with Creighton, even though I do like them against NC State. They kind of fell, in my opinion, a little bit of expectations in that Big East tournament. Let's go to the Midwest region. Here's the first half of the bracket. These games will take place Thursday and Friday in Birmingham, Alabama, and Albany, New York. The number one overall seed in the tournament, the Houston Cougars, who lost their conference title game today to the Memphis Tigers. They'll face Northern Kentucky in a 1-16 matchup. We talked about the 89 matchup with Iowa versus Auburn. That's in Birmingham, Alabama on Thursday. Here are the Friday games, and this one could be a sneaky upset. I'll give you my prediction in just a moment. Number 12, Drake Bulldogs will face the number 5 seed, the U. That's right, the football school, the University of Miami Hurricanes. And then the other game in Albany, New York on Friday. We talked about this earlier. Number 4, Indiana Hoosiers. They'll face Kent State, who are ranked. They are seated at number 13. I'm calling it right now. I'm liking Drake over Miami. That's my 12-5 upset.
I could see that. I mean, like I said, if you see the Drake team that you saw against Bradley last week, sure. I know Miami. I think they lost one of their top guys to the injury. So I know I can see why some people are picking Drake. But again, Drake's one of those teams where how I feel about this, guys. They depend on 3 a little bit too much for my taste. So if they get cold from 3 early, I think Miami can take advantage of that. So I can kind of see this could go either way. I think that's gonna be the 25-12. I think there's always that one. Auburn, I mean, it's like I said on Twitter. I mean, it's gonna depend on who loses their temper first. Will Fran McCaffrey, throw a chair at something? Well, not throw a chair, but he'll yell at a ref. Will Bruce Pearl, turn orange? I mean, that's really gonna be what I'm looking for. But this could be a toss-up for me. But I don't know. But yeah, those are probably the 2 games I probably got for in this part of the Midwest.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think that Drake has got Miami on upset watch, but I actually think that the rest of it goes chalk. Houston, I think they've got, even though they lost, and here's the thing with Houston right now. Marcus Sasser's out, their best player. Well, we don't know how long he's going to be out for as well. He's got a groin injury. Obviously didn't play today, which I think made a difference in their loss to Memphis, obviously. And, if he's back, if he's healthy, if he's able to go, but groin injuries linger. And, they don't give you that explosiveness anymore. So if Sasser's able to go, is he going to be giving 100% or is he 80%? I mean, 80% of him is still a pretty damn good basketball player, but you're still looking at an injury that kind of zaps you of some of your explosiveness. So I don't think they're going to lose to Northern Kentucky, but I do think that's something to monitor, see how much he actually plays and if he can play.
All right, here's the other half of that Midwestern bracket. These games will take place Thursday and Friday in Greensboro, North Carolina, and in Des Moines, Iowa. Here are the Friday games from Greensboro. Number 6, Iowa State. They'll play Mississippi State or Pittsburgh. And also in the other game in Greensboro, we'll have number 3, Xavier. The Mountaineers will take on number 14 seed Kennesaw State. And then the Thursday games from Des Moines, Iowa, the 7-10 matchup, Texas A&M versus Penn State, who lost the Big Ten, the Big Ten tournament title game here in Chicago to Purdue earlier today. And we have the 2-15 matchup, Texas versus Colgate, as Andy Mays of WGN Radio will say, the Toothpaste University. Do we see any surprises in this half of the bracket?
I mean, like I said, I mean, if whoever wins that Mississippi Pittsburgh game, I mean, if they do beat Iowa State, I don't think that's really a big upset. Because I think whoever they play at, they both are all evenly matched. So I don't think that'll be a big issue. Kennesaw State is going to be their first time, in the tournament ever, on the big, the big side, big D1 side. So I don't see Xavier having any trouble. I mean, Penn State, if Penn State beats Texas A&M, I mean, that won't be a big upset for me. 7-10, like you said earlier, Mike. Texas, I don't think so. I think they're going to ride in that high. They could come out of this region. I'm not going to say might Final Four yet, but they could come out of this region. But I don't see them having any issues either.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with kind of what you've got on there. I really like Xavier. I think Sean Miller's done a fantastic job coaching, bounced back after all the allegations and everything, and they're a very good team. They've been a very good team for a long time, and I think this year they've got a team that can contend for to get to that Sweet 16, Elite 8 potentially. I wouldn't say that they're a lock, and I don't think any team is a lock to come out of that region because it's pretty tough. It's a pretty tough one. But actually, I like Xavier to make a little bit of noise. Definitely get to the Sweet 16.
Another team that could sneakily have an easy path, I'm using air quotes here, to at least get to the Sweet 16, and that's Texas. They're ranked number 2 in the Midwest region. They're 26-8 overall, and they beat Kansas for the Big 12 tournament. Like the way Texas is playing right now, don't be surprised if they sneak into the Sweet 16 round as well. Let's go to the West region. Here's the first half of that bracket. These games will take place in Des Moines, Iowa, and Albany, New York. The 2 games in Des Moines, Iowa on Thursday will see the 1-16 matchup, Kansas versus Howard, the Bison. And this is the first time, I believe, since 1992 they participated in the NCAA tournament. So that's an HBCU school there. Of course, we talked about Arkansas and Illinois. That'll be the other game on Thursday from Des Moines, Iowa. Friday's games from Albany, New York in the West region. Here's another 12-5 matchup. St. Mary's at 26-7 versus VCU. They're checking in at 27-7. And, of course, number 4, UConn will take on Iona, who are seeded number 13. Any upsets here?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to the NCAA, Walter Reynolds, who's the AD from Bradley, and who was in charge of the tournament committee this year. Thank you for not playing the HBCUs in the play-in games. So, that's good. So, that's good for you. But the other HBCU is going to be in the play-in. Well, we'll get to them in a bit. But I don't really see anything. I mean, Arkansas, Illinois, again, that's a toss-up. We talked about it earlier. I could see VCU upsetting St. Mary's. I mean, VCU, they're kind of like one of those guys, those teams that can run it. I've seen them play. I saw them earlier against Dayton in the A10 championship.
They turned it around in the second half of their hot shooting on the outside.
Yeah. And that's probably could be the key for them. And, we know St. Mary's can get ice cold at times. So that's really going to be a toss-up on that one. UConn, Iona, I mean, Rick Pitino, there's rumors that he might, be coming back to the Big East at Georgetown. That's the rumor. That'll be, hilarious. It's going to be in New York too. So, that's going to be a wild scene. So, but I don't think UConn shouldn't have any issues. So, I mean, Kansas, I'm not going to say Kansas has an easy route in this part, but I don't really see anybody giving them any trouble. At least I don't think.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Like we talked about, a couple months ago, I really like Kansas. I think that they're really one of the top teams in the country. Now, the big question is Bill Self. He had a heart attack. earlier this week. There is talk that he should be rejoining the team. I think the team rallies around him. This is the kind of adversity that you see a team say, all right, like, let's go. Let's kind of, get this going and let's do it for Coach Self. And, I like what they've done. Yeah, they've got the most losses of a 1 seed, whatever, but that doesn't matter. I think that they've put themselves in a position where they play such a tough schedule that it doesn't, at the end of the day, it just makes them better, regardless of where they're seated. But I definitely like, Kansas. St. Mary's, they lose to Gonzaga a couple of times late. And Gonzaga's a team that is on the bottom side of that bracket that they would have to face, and that's a tough conference, and that it's become a basketball conference, which 15, 20 years ago you probably would have looked at that and said, "Nah, that's not going to be the case in 2023," but that's exactly what the case is, and you're looking at again. There are going to be some upsets in this one, I think. VCU's coming in hot, too. They're on a nice little winning streak, won their conference title as well. Who knows with, what UConn you get, too, because they've been a little bit inconsistent. They've been a little bit inconsistent down the stretch. So, I do think that there's some potential for, some lower seeds, VCU and Iona to advance on to day 2.
Here's the back half of that West bracket. These games will take place Friday and Thursday from Sacramento, California, and Denver, Colorado. Here are the Friday games from Denver. The 6-11 matchup features the TCU Horned Frogs versus Arizona State or Nevada. In the other Friday game from Denver, Colorado, the quote-unquote quiet 3-seeded Gonzaga Bulldogs at 28-5. They'll play the number 14-seeded Grand Canyon. And here are the Thursday games from Sacramento, California. We talked about the 7-10 matchup earlier. Northwestern will face the Boise State Broncos coming out of the state of Ohio. And in the 2-15 matchup from Sacramento on Thursday in the West region, UCLA will play UNC Asheville. Any surprises from this bracket? LaKeena, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I want to correct myself here. That it's Dr. Chris Reynolds, who's the Bradley University AD. So I want to make sure, he has a PhD. So I want to make sure I get that right. Cool. Who was in charge? Who was the chairman of the committee this year? So I want to make sure I get his name right. Make sure he said he is a doctor. So make sure that I get that right. But I mean, TCU and whoever they play. I mean, Nevada is it's a little bit different. They could be a little bit streaky. Arizona State also could be very streaky. So, but I don't see TCU having really any issues. But again, depends on which TCU you're going to get. Gonzaga, I know they're like the quiet 3 seed. Grand Canyon, I mean, they were a 5th seed, coming out of the gate. Also, Walter Ellis, shout out to him, Alfonso Ellis's kid. I saw an interview that he did with his dad and the others over at ESPN a few minutes, about an hour ago. So that was a really cool moment seeing that for him, a 5th-year senior. I don't really see any chalk. I mean, UCLA, I know they're going to be without Jalen Clark, and I think a couple another guy as well. I think they just lost on the Pac-12 title yesterday, but it could be between UCLA and Gonzaga. Could TCU somehow sneak in there? Maybe, but yeah, I don't know. But this part of the bracket in the Midwest is going to be very tough to figure out.
Yeah, I like Gonzaga. I just think again they've got some experience. Drew Timme is one of the best big men in the country, and they just churn out like every year. Gonzaga's good every year. UCLA, big fan of Tiger Campbell, Chicago guy, obviously.
Yes.
A really big fan. Love the hair as well.
Yes.
And again, guards run the tournament, and he's one of the best guards in the tournament. And they've got he's got a great pair with Jamie Jasquez as well.
I like him too.
Yeah, I think he's they've got a really, really good team. And if you're talking about a 2 that's a little quiet, I think it's UCLA. I think that they've got a really good chance to, definitely make the Sweet 16. And then, that UCLA Gonzaga matchup is juicy. It looks pretty good on paper. So, I do think that, Northwestern could make, they might beat Boise. They might not. We'll see. Again, we want to see what Northwestern shows up. I don't think TCU is going to have an issue with whoever wins their play-in game. And I do like, Gonzaga and UCLA to most likely make that Sweet 16 and face off against each other.
All right, our last bracket is the East region, and here's the first half of the bracket. The games will take place Thursday and Friday from Columbus, Ohio, and Orlando, Florida. Let's start with the first half of the East region bracket. These are the Friday games from Columbus, Ohio. The number 1 seed Purdue Boilermakers, who won their Big Ten tournament earlier today, beating Penn State by a couple points. They'll the 1-16 matchup, Purdue will face either Texas Southern or Fairleigh Dickinson. In the other contest from Columbus on Friday, the number 8 seeded Memphis Tigers, who won the American Conference tournament earlier today, beating Houston. They'll take on the number 9 seeded Florida Atlantic. And here are the Thursday games from Orlando. Number 5 Duke, who are currently on a 9-game winning streak under first-year head coach John Shire. They are 26-8. They'll take on the number 12 seed Oral Roberts, who finished the year at 30-4. And the other Thursday game from the Sunshine State, number 4 Tennessee, they'll take on the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana. Louisiana has a 26-7 record.
Yeah, that Memphis FAU game, that should be an interesting one. That might be like first to 90, I think, because both of these teams can kind of, sort of like, shoot like crazy. I don't see Purdue, of course, that they're not going to have any issues whoever they play, Texas Southern or FDU. I could see them getting out of that part of the region, so I don't think they'll have any trouble with their first couple of games. Duke, congratulations. You win your, Josh Hart, his first year. They get their 22nd ACC tournament title, but you got to play a pretty dangerous Oral Roberts team from the Summit League who went undefeated in their conference. They're going to have they're going to give them all they can handle. Talk about Oral Roberts, but they should be able to get out of that. Kyle Filipkowski, Jeremy Roach. I mean, this is a defensive-minded team, so they can slow the Oral Roberts down. They shouldn't really have any trouble. I'm seeing a lot of people pick Louisiana. I don't even think a lot of people can name 5. They're starting 5. I don't think I know Tennessee lost one of their guys for the year, but I know Tennessee's been inconsistent the last few weeks. But Rick Barnes is a veteran at this, so he'll have his guys ready. I don't think they should have. They'll give them all they can handle. Talk about the Raging Cajuns, but Tennessee should be able to get out there. Purdue and Duke for the Sweet 16 might be pretty interesting. So, I can, look, this could be one of those weird, regions that we might see some shakeups maybe, but I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
I really like that Duke Purdue matchup. I think I just first glance, I'm leaning towards that. I'm not the biggest fan of what Tennessee does. I think they're, again, an inconsistent basketball team. And, Duke is peaking right now. And that's something that I want to see. I think that's 10 wins in a row that they've had. Like you touched on, John Shire. We're talking about a guy that not only won an ACC tournament as a player, he's now won as a coach, which makes him the only person in ACC history to do that. They went undefeated at home in the ACC, which was very impressive as well. Now, granted, obviously a neutral site we're talking about here, but they've got a deep team. They've got freshmen. And what we've seen Duke do over the last 5 years is they went from trying to have veteran-laden teams to realizing that that's not how the game is played anymore. And Coach K made that adjustment towards the end of his tenure, and they got back into the national picture. And he gave John Shire a nice going away present with the recruits that he's brought in. And I'll tell you what, those young players on Duke, really, like Kyle Filipkowski, they have really, really come on towards the end of the season. And I think they're a team that nobody wants to face. And I think that they would definitely, if Purdue and the Blue Devils make it in that Sweet 16, I think that's going to be a game that everyone's going to look back on and say, wow, that was one hell of a contest. Because I think I think on paper, to me, they're the 2 best teams in the East bracket.
Okay, and here's the last half of the East region bracket. These games will take place, all of them, on Friday from Columbus, Ohio, and Greensboro, North Carolina. Here's the 2 games from Greensboro. The 6-11 matchup features both teams are perhaps underperformed during the regular season. Kentucky and Providence, both teams checking in with the 21-11 records. in the 6 and 11 matchup there. In the last game from Greensboro on Friday, number 3 Kansas State, they'll face number 14 Montana State. Kansas State 23-9, Montana State 25-9. Last half of the bracket, these games will take place in Columbus, Ohio on Friday. We talked about this matchup earlier, the 7-10 matchup, Michigan State versus USC. In the other game from Columbus on Friday night, we'll have number 2 Marquette. They'll face number 15 Vermont. Out of this last part of the bracket, guys, I watched Vermont in their conference title game on Saturday morning. They played very good defense. I think Marquette is going to get by them, but Marquette and Shaka Smart, they've done a great job this year, but they better not sleep on Vermont because they can come at you very well defensively.
Agreed. I've seen a couple of their games, and look, this won't be the first time Vermont would pull off an upset. Remember, they beat Syracuse years ago, so
yeah,
This would be the first time for them. Michigan State, USC. I mean, I think I picked SC because look, I know you never want to count out Tom Izzo in March, but the team isn't. I don't want no disrespect to his guys, but they're not very good this year. Kansas State, I mean, Ronnie Terry's done a great job his first year there. Well, I think it's first year there. So they shouldn't have no problem with Montana State. Kentucky and Providence. I mean, this is the Bryce Hopkins game. You remember he transferred from Kentucky to Providence. He's now their leading scorer there over the Friars. So this could be one of those toss-up matchups. Which team are you going to get? So I think Marquette could get out of this part of the region. I mean, Kentucky Marquette or Providence Marquette, get Big East field, or maybe K-State might sneak in there. So who knows? I mean, this could be one of those games where I might have a hard time picking from this part of the East region.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. This is there's a jumble down here, and there's a couple of teams that you look at and you're like, well, they could make a run, and you just don't really know. I do like Marquette. I think that they have been given a little easier path than some of the other twos.
Right.
I don't think Kansas State is a super strong 3. Michigan State and USC, both of them, again, are inconsistent. You just don't know which kind of team is going to show up on a daily basis. I just don't. None of these teams. If I'm Marquette, I don't think any of these teams for you to get to the Elite 8 is really looking at like, oh, I'm afraid of you guys. So I think Marquette. I think Marquette has a pretty easy route to the Elite 8.
All right, what do you guys think of like sleeper teams? Maybe any sleeper teams that you probably say, okay, I can see this team making a run. I mean, you can't pick Duke because technically they wouldn't be a sleeper. I mean, they're like a high 5, so you can't pick Duke. So like other than them, who do you guys think could probably be a sleeper team and kind of sneak in there and make some noise, perhaps, and maybe bust some brackets?
Ooh, that's a tough one, to be honest with you. But there is a stat that I saw earlier today that mentioned that since I believe it was since 2002, every single champion has been in the KenPom, the top 22 ranking or top 40, I'm sorry, on offense and top 22 on defense. There's only a handful of teams that have those stats this year, and one of them is Creighton. The Blue Jays are a 6 seed. They definitely have a tough go if they make it a couple of rounds to face Alabama in the Elite 8. But I like their mix. I think that they play in a solid conference. I think they've got some decent, veterans on their team as well. And again, they fit that mix of a top 40 offense with a very, very stingy defense. So if there's a lower seed that I think is going to make noise, I think it's Creighton.
I think Xavier, the number 3 seed out of the Midwest region, could break up some brackets. I know not too many people talk about them. Maybe Drake, if they upset Miami of Florida on Friday, we can see that. Also, looking at the South region, maybe Missouri. I know not too many people talked about them all year outside of LaKeena, so I think they could possibly turn up and bust some brackets as well. West Virginia, I think they'll beat Maryland, but I don't see them getting past Alabama in that second round in that South region.
Yeah, see, for me, do I see any of them? I mean, maybe Missouri, Utah State, whoever wins that one could probably maybe give Arizona some fits. A&M, Penn State, whoever wins that matchup, maybe. I mean, I know I'm cheating going with the 7-10, Northwestern and Boise State, whoever wins that one. USC, maybe if they beat Michigan State, they could probably make some noise too. I mean, this could be one of those tournaments where we might again. I want to stress on this: might see all chalk. So maybe. I mean, do you see? Could we see one of the 11s? I mean, could I see an Arizona State or Nevada, whoever wins that one? Maybe bust some brackets. Sure. I mean, maybe NC State, like I said, are they going to feel out the motivation of folks feeling that they should not have gotten in? I can see them probably perhaps maybe doing that. Pittsburgh. A lot of people didn't think Pittsburgh would even make the tournament. Let alone the first 4 this year. So could I see Jeff Capel, telling his guys to use that as motivation? Maybe. But yeah, I mean, this could be one of those. We may not see that many upsets. I say we may. I don't want this come back like, oh, you said it would be upsets. No, we may not see as much as this, but you never know.
Maybe VCU come out of the rest region for me. Should they get by St. Mary's in that other 12-5 matchup? I think VCU can surprise the teams as well and get to the Sweet 16 at least.
Maybe Arkansas. I don't know, but what do you think, Mike? Do you see anything?
I like UConn as well. They fit that criteria again of strong defense and a solid offense. Again, that's kind of what I'm looking for when I'm looking for lower seeded teams. Now, yeah, UConn's a 4, so they're not necessarily a lower seeded team, but I do think that they can make some noise. We're gonna have an 11 or a 10 just come through and do something. And if there is one that I'm going to pick that is going to do something, I like Penn State. I really do. I think Micah Shrewsbury has coached up that team and really put them in a position where, there's going to be a lot of eyes on what they're going to do. And I think that, he's setting himself up to potentially take a bigger job in the offseason. And we'll see if that actually happens. But I like Penn State as a lower seed, and a double-digit seed. If they're going to pick one, I think it's going to be Penn State.
Well, Penn State, I'm sure they're hearing this, so I'm sure they're going to, bump a little bit of the cashola up, So I wouldn't be surprised if they, I'm sure they've seen it happen. Maybe give Mr. Coach Tewsbury a nice little raise here, so to make sure he stays. So, but as we're wrapping things up here, of course, our special edition of Second Seed Sports on Sports on Chicago doing our bracket breakdown here. The South region for me is probably like the toughest region because I looked at that when Greg Gumma first announced it. I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be a really tough region. So what do you guys think is the toughest region?
The toughest. I'd go out west. Actually, you've got again, you've got UConn, you've got Gonzaga, you've got UCLA, you've got Kansas, St. Mary's. That is a rough go.
Yeah.
They definitely didn't give Kansas an easy way to the Final Four again, and I really think that's the one because I think that the lower seeds are all very, very good. And I do think that, when looking at one of them, I think it's the West.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. The West is a tough region from top to bottom. Like I said, you can argue about the seedings here and there, but I think that's the toughest bracket as well. Whoever comes out of that one, they're going to earn the trip to the Final Four. I know Kansas is the favorite coming out of there as a 1 seed, but we talked about VCU. We talked about UConn, TCU, Gonzaga at a 3C, UCLA at a 2. It's definitely going to be some competition there to get to the regional final before you get to the Final Four.
And I'm sure they'll have a tough go at it, once they beat Howard, the Arkansas, Illinois, whoever they face there. That's not going to be easy. This is Kansas. You got probably the toughest, route to get back to the Final Four. So, in Houston. So, yeah, that's going to be. Yeah, that's going to be a little nutty there. You got the East, of course, and then you got the Midwest. With Houston. I mean, it like we talked about this earlier. Maybe you put all 7 or 8 of these teams in a hat. And you'd probably say I can make a case for them getting out of the region, but we'll see. So, anything else to say before we got to do our Final Four picks?
I'm just ready to get down to business, watch these March Madness games. This is the best time of the year on a sports calendar. Just a reminder, unlike everybody else, you got to find True TV on your cable provider. I don't watch that channel, but I will be doing that over the next couple of weeks. Just a reminder for you guys. The tournament starts Tuesday and Wednesday with the first 4 playing games, and that's from Dayton, Ohio, I believe. You can watch that on True TV. And of course, the real tournament starts on Thursday on CBS and the networks of TNT, TBS, and True TV.
All right, gentlemen. Now, of course, you can change these if you want to, because I'm definitely going to be I'm going to have like 10 different combinations within the next few days before these ranks get turned in for by 11 a.m. our time on Thursday. Who are your Final Four and who will be your national champion? It's going to be in Houston this year. So, Mike, I'll start with you, my friend.
All right. We'll start off in the South. I'm taking Alabama. I don't think that the Crimson Tide really, they awarded them the 1 national seed. I think they have the easiest route to get to the Final Four. So I really like them. Midwest, I'm actually going to go with the Longhorns. I think that they, again, I think that Houston, in my eyes, I think that Houston is the weakest one just because of the potential injury to Marcus Sasser. I've had a groin injury before. It takes weeks, and it's not quite as bad as a hamstring injury, but it just like all of the power, all of your explosiveness is gone. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks for you to build that back up. So can he get back and play at a high level again? Maybe, but I like Texas coming out of that. The East, I'm gonna go. This is the crazy one here in my eyes. I like Duke. I think they're playing at a really high level right now. I think that they go on a little magical run and get everyone excited out there on Tobacco Road for the future of the program with John Shire leading them. And I think that Duke really, makes a run here. And then out west, this is like we talked about, this is the tough bracket for me because there's a lot of teams that can come out of here and do it. I keep talking about Kansas, and so I feel bad if I don't pick them. So I know that they're gonna have a hard road. They're not gonna be easy, but like we talked about, they're gonna be battle tested coming out of there. So I like Kansas and title game. I think Kansas makes it again. I think Kansas and Alabama, and I'm gonna take Bama as my winner.
Okay.
Interesting. Out of the South, I will take Alabama. Out of the Midwest, I will go with Houston. I think they'll just find something deep, and despite the injuries, they'll find a way to get it done. Out of the West, here's my quote-unquote crazy pick. I'm going with UCLA. Representing the
crazy.
That's not crazy. They're
that's not great. Yeah, that's not crazy. I think
I know they're on yeah. I mean, I know they're going to be out with a couple of their guys, but they're still pretty deep. Mick Cronin, their guys are tested.
Oh yeah.
And I agree with you, Mike. Out of the East, I'm going with Duke. They're
Who's
just
your
playing
champion?
well at the right time.
Right.
They really are.
They really are. I think this might be. Yeah. Who's your champion?
As of right now, I'm just definitely putting it in pencil. I'm going with Houston.
Okay.
All right. My turn. Now, again, this will definitely change in the next 3 days. So this is on War Media. Bama from the South. I'm going to stick. I'm going to agree with you guys on that. Midwest. Shoot. Crap. I'll pick Houston. I'm not really sure about them, especially if like you said, Mike, with Sasser's groin injury. That's a little bit of a toss up for me. That's the wild card for me. So that's gonna be something to look out for. I know they're still, they got a lot of depth, but I saw what happened in the game against Memphis. So there's that could be an issue coming in. But right now, as of 7:12 Central Time, I'm gonna pick Houston from the Midwest. From the West, I'll stay Kansas. I know they're going to be battle tested. They played in one of the toughest conferences in the country this year, so they're going to get everything thrown at them, whether it's, Illinois, Arkansas, Gonzaga, UConn, whoever. But I'm going to pick Kansas out of that. I think, I'm going to pick Duke as well. I mean, I'm looking at the other teams from the East. I mean, I don't trust Purdue. I mean, those last few minutes against Penn State a few hours ago, I think showed me why I don't. Tennessee, they're going to be out there, guys. They're inconsistent. Kentucky, too, is inconsistent. K-State, I don't know what I'm going to get. Marquette, but they're good and they're battle tested, but they're young, but I don't think they're ready yet. Shaka Smart, I know he's got a lot of experience, but I don't think they're ready yet as a team. So like I'm gonna pick Duke, and I have Duke and Kansas. I got Kansas going back to back. Oh gosh, okay. Again, subject to change, mostly. This is all subject to change, but oh my goodness. Oh, Sid, you got anything else before we disperse?
Mike, thank you very much for joining us today on the program and our Selection Sunday breakdown. Where can people find you and your work online?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mike F. Chen. I've got a little link to my work in my bio on there, so you can get on all that right over there.
And we'll definitely have you back as this tournament goes on, because as everybody else, sports fans across the country, across the world, we can't wait for this tournament to get started, which will be this Tuesday. Of course, the real tournament, in my opinion, starts on Thursday. My opinion, the best two sports days on the calendar, Thursday and Friday. You get games starting at 11 in the morning, Chicago time, that goes to 11 to 12 o'clock at night. Of course, the Saturday, Sunday games in the first weekend are good too. So we can't wait. And I think it's going to be an exciting tournament. It's more open now than ever before.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So you can follow McGee on the Twitter, and LaKeena's going to be on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And don't forget, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago, now available on Roku TV. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is available on Roku TV. If you have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download the Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, but you have a bunch of handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your personal PC like LaKeena's using right now, your Chromebook like I'm using right now, just go into the Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and download Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anywhere, everywhere you want. Our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Buzz, What's Up, Cuz, and tune in tomorrow at our regular time at noon, as we're going to have, of course, there was some trade that the Bears did. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Also, we're going to have more attorney talk. We're going to have our buddy Jordan Burnfield from WGN News and ESPN. He'll have his thoughts on, the brackets and stuff like that. So more attorney talk on tomorrow's show in our regular time at noon. So for Sid, I'm LaKeena. And Mike Chen as well. Don't forget our buddy Mike Chen.
Yes.
Don't want to forget about that. For both of them, I'm LaKeena. Have a great Sunday night. The Oscars going on right now. So you guys go ahead. Go watch the Oscars and enjoy the tournament. This has been Second City Sports, special edition on Sports Zone Chicago. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Happy March Madness. Holla!